The difficult question, why does God allow evil to exist? Why does suffering exist? If God is omnipotent, why not intervene immediately to end all sin and injustice in this world? Furthermore, if he is loving and righteous, why does he not punish the wicked, leaving the innocent evil and suffering to exist in this world, when he is omnipotent and good-heartedly? The devil and temptation, the reason for evil to invade. In the Screw Tape Letters, C.S. Lewis pointed out that the devil not only tempts humans with obvious sins, but also with indirect, subtle tactics. He writes, "The enemy's tactics are not always direct temptation. Sometimes it uses those around you to lead you astray. This means that the devil does not necessarily have to make us fall into major sins. In fact, it only needs to gradually distance us from God. Everything starts with small things. A little distraction in prayer, a delay in reading the Bible, a little neglect of moral values. Distraction, a dangerous tactic. One of the devil's most effective methods is to distract people. It does not need to create obvious bad things, but only needs to make us forget the most important thing, the relationship with God. Busyness, life pressures, daily worries can occupy our minds, making us forget to pray, forget to spend time with God. Initially, this seems harmless, but over time, that small distance can turn into a huge gap. We no longer seek God in difficult times, no longer feel his presence in life. Faith gradually becomes a distant concept instead of the foundation of life. God does not create suffering, but he uses it to purify people, helping them become more like him. C.S. Lewis, The Problem of Pain. Every small choice, a step closer or further from God. The devil does not need to make you commit terrible sins. It only needs you to gradually lose your enthusiasm for God. Each time you skip a prayer, each time you indulge in negative thoughts, each time you let yourself be caught up in useless pleasures, you are taking a step further away from God's peace. A potter cannot create a beautiful vase without pressure and cutting. C.S. Lewis. Small daily decisions can become cracks in the soul, leading to a major rift in faith. If we do not realize it in time, we can go too far without realizing it. Spiritual awareness. The spiritual battle is not always obvious. Sometimes it takes place silently in the mind, in our daily choices. Therefore, maintaining an awake soul and a steadfast faith is extremely important. Be cautious of small distractions. Maintain a connection with God through prayer and meditation on his word. Realize that each day is an opportunity to come closer to God. Today's pain can be tomorrow's testimony. The devil may be subtle, but a heart that turns to God will never be shaken. Always be awake, hold firm to your faith, and do not let small things distance you from the one who loved you unconditionally. The meaning of suffering. Why does God let humans suffer? Suffering is one of the big problems that not only humans, but even genuine Christians face. The question posed is, why does a good, omnipotent God let his children go through suffering? If free will is part of the explanation for the existence of evil, then suffering is an indispensable part of each person's journey of maturity. C.S. Lewis, in the work, The Problem of Pain, wrote a sentence that illuminates a profound part of the answer. God does not create suffering, but he allows it to train people. This is an extremely important point, because it not only explains the presence of suffering, but also points out that suffering is not what God wants for humans. Suffering is not punishment, but a tool that God uses to train and purify the human soul, helping us mature and become more steadfast in faith. Suffering is not what God creates, but permission for us to realize the necessity of him in life. God does not want us to endure pain, but he allows it to exist because it is an opportunity for humans to realize the true values of life: salvation, faith, and love. Without suffering, humans would hardly realize the profound value of salvation. In moments of hardship, we clearly see God's call and realize our own weakness. Suffering, though it may cause hurt and pain, is an opportunity for us to realize that we need to seek God, to be healed, to be strengthened in faith. We can look at the story of Job in the Bible as a clear example of how suffering can become a tool to train faith. Job was a faithful person to God. He lived a moral and complete life, but had to endure countless trials, losses, and extreme pain. However, throughout that time of suffering, Job not only realized the greatness of God, but also showed a resilient, strong faith even in the greatest trials. Job went through extreme pain, but he did not give up on God, did not deny his faith. On the contrary, those trials and pains made him even more knowledgeable and loving of God. Job's faith became stronger, not in favorable circumstances, but through the trials that God allowed him to go through. Suffering can be the megaphone that God uses to rouse a deaf world, as C.S. Lewis once said. In fact, in difficult times, we truly realize that peace does not come from external circumstances, not from material conditions or security in life. True peace comes from closeness to God, from knowing that He is always present in our lives, even when everything around us seems to collapse. Suffering becomes a tool that God uses to awaken people, to make them realize the lack in their hearts and return to Him. We cannot fully understand why God allows suffering to exist, but we can understand that each time we face trials, God is helping us train our faith, helping us become stronger, more understanding and closer to Him. Suffering is not the end of everything, but a stepping stone for us to go to salvation and mature in faith. The reasons God allows evil to exist, the transformations to realize God has meaning. The existence of evil is not a mistake in God's plan, but a part of His redemptive program. C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity affirmed, God can allow evil to exist, but He will use it to carry out the plan of redemption. God does not create evil, but He allows it to exist with a holy purpose, to turn suffering into an opportunity for humans to come closer to Him. Trials do not destroy God's plan of redemption, but become a part of that process. Hardships, losses can help humans realize their weakness and yearn for help from Him. Free will is an important element in the relationship between humans and God. It allows us to choose the right path, but also brings the possibility of falling. When humans stray, suffering can become a tool to reshape faith. Trials are not always negative, but can be opportunities for humans to mature in faith, learn to rely on God, and find true peace in Him. The story of Job is clear proof of this. He experienced terrible losses, but did not lose faith in God. Through trials, Job understood more deeply the righteousness of God and came closer to Him. It is in suffering that humans see clearly the power of God and the importance of faith. Therefore, the existence of evil is not meaningless, but a part of the great plan that God has for humans. He does not directly cause suffering, but He uses it to sharpen our faith, helping us become stronger, more steadfast in obedience. Every trial is an opportunity for us to mature in faith and come closer to God in all circumstances, whether favorable or difficult. Conclusion: realizing what God is doing in suffering. Suffering, though it may seem like an immensely great burden in life, it is not the end of everything. Suffering is an inseparable part of this world, a reality that we cannot avoid. We will encounter difficult moments, trials that make us feel like we are collapsing, But the important thing is to realize that suffering is not the final stop in our journey. Every pain, every loss can become an opportunity for us to mature, to realize more clearly the deep meaning of faith and strength in God. God is not the one who creates evil, but He can and will use evil to carry out His plan. This does not mean that He encourages evil, but in the freedom He gives to humans, sometimes the abuse of that freedom creates evil and suffering. However, God has the power and wisdom to use these trials to lead humans into maturity in faith. God can turn difficulties, sufferings into opportunities to express His love. Help us realize the need to be closer to Him, seek Him for healing and support. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of history. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.